Make sure we're starting here soon. Make sure we're starting here soon. All right. Good evening, folks. 8 in the room already. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Blue Collar Fishing Live. All right. Good evening, folks. Let me go ahead and mute that stream.
Good evening, folks.
Mute your, if you're watching the chat, mute your YouTube stream there.
Blue Collar Fishing Live. All
right. Welcome to Blue Collar Fishing Live. I am your host, Kelly. Tonight's guest is Gumpa's Honey Hole Custom Rods. We have Aaron with us. Glad to see everybody can make it tonight. We'll get into all the questions for Gumpa. I know a lot of people have questions for him to come in tonight, but before that, let's get the chores done. You know how YouTube works by now. If you're new with us, be sure and click subscribe. We really appreciate that as we grow subscribers each week. Also, if you want to leave a comment in the comment box below, that is greatly appreciated. For anything you'd like to see in the future, smash that thumbs up for us, as it does us a big favor. And if you want to stay notified anytime we go live or any videos that we upload, click that notification bell. All right, Aaron, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, you all know me. I'm Gumpa. I think a few of you seen me on a live before. I know you talked to me on Twitter. There's Dean, and there's Ed, and there's Steven, and yeah, I know about everybody in the chat. So no helicopters.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and shout out everybody who's come into the chat so far tonight. We have Crankbait Crisis with us already. Little Rancher, Edward Seller, Mike Carlson, Mars Tees Lures. Hey, if you didn't see it on Twitter, Marty has agreed to give away a custom crankbait later tonight. I'll pick a winner and he'll ship it to you. So stay tuned for that. There were some Mars Tees Lures. Who else we have with us tonight? Rancher, Bass Tamer TV. Jennifer is with us tonight. Fishing Family Network has joined in. Shelby Super Snake is joining in. Far Out Foods. Riley Finchfield Food Reviews. Jason, I can never pronounce your last name. Shishaki, I think. I'm sure I just butchered that. Braden Sports and Outdoors has joined us tonight. Grant McIntosh is with us tonight. Art Belden is with us tonight. Man, Mr. Hard Charger. Man, y'all are just coming in. All right, just say hello if you come in and I missed you. Sue Hockey. Now I know. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Oh, I'm sure he's been called worse.
I'm sure I've called him worse. All right. So if I missed you, just leave me a note saying, hey, shout me out or something of that nature, and we'll get with you. Also, please obey the rules of the chat. YouTube is a bit finicky now, as we all know. I think it's just an urban myth, but no, please don't say sub for sub, subscribe, support. Check me out. Hey, leave this chat and go to another chat. None of that thing. That's just bad manners. And we'll all have a good time in here. Ask questions. Be respectful of one another, and there won't be any issues. If you troll or offend people in my chat, myself or my moderators will politely show you the door. All right, Gumpa. Let's start with the first question.
All right.
Why do you fish, and how did you get into fishing?
Well, how I got into fishing was my dad. Far back as I can remember, we were sitting on a bank of some river or lake with a cane pole, usually fishing for crappie, bluegill, catfish. We were poor, so that's how we supplemented the meat diet, was hunting and fishing. Why do I fish? There's nothing like it for me. I mean, especially bass fishing. It's one of the few safe ways I can get an adrenaline rush, but it's therapy. It's me on the water, me and a fish, sunrise, little mist. The whole world drops away. It's a great way to drop my problems and just chill for 8 or 10 hours and come back home a little more even keeled and ready to deal with the world again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tell everybody as a kid, it turned the noise off. we had a back then we just called it. Excuse me. Pardon me. Back then we just called it being, antsy or hyperactive or whatever. There was nobody knew anything about ADHD or anything by then. But fishing was and my grandfather taught me. I didn't have a dad growing up most of my life, but my grandfather would take me, and that was my fishing turned the noise off, and it was my chance to feel normal, just sitting there with my grandfather. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And taking kids fishing like that, they learn a lot. You don't realize you're teaching them because they pay attention to everything you do. And,
Yeah.
it will teach you how to solve problems and deal with adversity because nothing ever goes the way you plan it.
Yeah, and I think the one of the best sayings I ever heard about that with kids was, and it really ties into to fishing. But I heard a guy on the radio say one time, when it comes to kids talking about examples, more is caught than taught.
Mm-hmm.
They catch more off of you than you can teach it. So.
Yeah. Well, when I was in the Army, we use a similar thing. Privates pay attention to what you do, so you've got to make sure that you're setting the example you want them to see, and it works just as well for children too. You have to be the example that you want to see. So, but yeah, fishing's awesome. There's no predetermined outcome in fishing. It can change. You can be having the worst day of your life, and 5 minutes later, you can catch the most fish or the biggest fish you've ever seen. And
bad day fishing still beats a good day at work.
Amen. Amen. So, I know Mike Carlson posted in the chat. He had a quick question.
All right.
He says, being new to bass fishing, what do you mean by listen to the bass? So Mike's probably been listening to some of my YouTube channel. And I do have my own YouTube channel at Gumpa's Honey Hole, folks. If you're not subscribed, you probably ought to stop in and give me a look and maybe think about that. It's straight up, no nonsense bass fishing information. But Mike, to answer your question, what do I mean by listen to the bass? Well, they don't really talk as we see it or hear it, but how they hit a lure tells you kind of what their mood is. If they really slam a lure, they're probably aggressive and moving around a bit so you can move a little faster. If it's just a little peck, a little tap, or you don't even feel them pick it up till the rod gets heavy, they're maybe not as aggressive, and they're telling you what they want. You just got to pay attention. Most people don't. I mostly fish for bass. That's my thing, has been for the last 30 years. I fished tournaments for a while. I'm actually thinking about getting back into tournaments next year after about a 15-year hiatus. But the hardest thing to teach anybody, even especially new guys, paying attention to not only what Mother Nature and the water is doing, but what the fish are doing or not doing. It's how you put a pattern together. Well, if you go out and you're fishing 4 to 6 feet, and you're getting a bite on 3/8 ounce jigs off a piece of PVC pipe or something around docks or a short shoreline, that bass is telling you something. So what you need to do is find more spots that look similar to that or have similar characteristics. And then you can replicate that catch. That's how you listen to the bass. You just got to kind of pay attention to what they're doing. I mean, like I said, if they're really hammering a lure, they're probably moving and being aggressive. So you can fish a little faster or maybe use a little quicker reaction bait. If you're not getting any reaction to your lure, you need to change.
Yeah. All right, guys. As you can tell, we have a very knowledgeable person with us as our guest tonight. So any questions you have in the chat, now is your chance to ask them and really learn something tonight. We have a question from Greg Warner on Twitter. He sent me earlier, and he wants to know, what was your first memory of fishing?
First memory of fishing. Boy, that's a good one. I've said about 6. I've got a picture somewhere. It's an old Polaroid. And me and my brother-in-law, my dad, well, both my brother-in-laws at the time, my dad, and a kid who was the nephew of one of my brother-in-laws, we went out to a place called the Sangamon River out here, and we got to go out at night and stay up all night catfishing. and come home the next morning. We're standing in the yard holding a big old stringer of bullheads and some channels. So that was awesome because I got to drink coffee. And we had the Coleman lantern with the old Coleman gas lanterns. So that was really cool as a 6-year-old. I got to play with the big boys. So yeah, that's probably my first solid memory.
Well, my first one is you're old enough to probably know what trot lining is.
Mm-hmm.
Me
Yep.
and like I said, I spent most of my summers with my grandparents, and we had this old style camper, the kind that the cab over, you put a bed up over the cab of the truck. We had this old F-100 3 in the tree that I learned to drive on because I grew up with my grandparents, and but in the summertime we would go what's called car camping. And we would load this camper up, and I grew up in Tennessee, so we'd hit Watts Bar and Jackson Island for 2 weeks, and then Cordell Hull for a week, and then Center Hill for a week or something like that. And there on Jackson Island and Watts Bar, there's this little inlet that comes in, and you can almost walk across all of it if you're an adult. A kid, I had to kind of bounce around, and I couldn't swim a lick. So I'd hang those trot lines with my grandfather, and when it got too deep, he always wore even shorts. He would cut off his overalls. He always wore these overalls at Walmart. So I grab a hold of that the straps in the back of my grandfather, and he walked me across. And I thought he was a giant. And when I got older, I realized he was only about 5'8" on his best day. But
yeah, everything looks bigger when you're that age.
Yeah, don't it? Though?
I've gone back and fished some of the spots I fished a lot as a kid, and it's amazing how small they've gotten. No, there's a question.
Yep. If you had
to pick, go ahead.
All right, if you had to pick one rod for bait casting, what size action and why?
All right. Well, this is a good question since I just lost every rod I owned, along with the reels. I got to put all my rods back together, but I don't have the money to do it all at once. So I had a customer's rod to order. I had enough money to go ahead and order me a rod to get me fishing until I can get the rest of my stockpile rebuilt, my 6 rods. So what I picked was a 7-foot, medium heavy, fast action. For the simple fact, that rod right there gives me a wide range of lures I can fish. It's like from a quarter to 3/4 ounce or half ounce, anything like that. It won't be the best rod for like crankbaits, etc., but I can fish them on it. I can fish my jerk baits. I can fish Texas rig worms. I can fish top water. It's not my preference in action for a rod for top waters or crankbaits, but it will get the job done across that spectrum. So yeah, if you want just one rod to use for a bait caster, my personal preference and my suggestion would be a medium heavy, 6'6", 7 foot, with a fast tip, with a fast action. It'll let you cover a really wide variety of lures without, in a reasonable way.
Mm-hmm. I have been a multi-species guy most of my life. I do like bass. It's my favorite to target. I'm not great at it. I'm not even good at it probably, but I'm still trying to master the bait caster. Where I live, it's heavy pressure in a lot of areas. So it's finesse, and finesse. You end up going back to the spinning rod a lot.
Yeah. Well, two schools of thought on that. You talk about heavy pressure. Everybody's doing the same thing you're doing. They're going to the spinning rod.
Yeah.
So them bass are seeing a lot of finesse lures. Switch it up on them. Go after them with the bait caster. Throw big stuff at them.
I've tried like bigger crankbaits and jerk baits and stuff, and just nothing. But maybe this year will be the year. Like you said, switch it up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into my next question here. I remember the first rod and reel I bought, name brand, with my own money, that wasn't just borrowed from somebody else's, was a Abu Garcia combo back before Abu was mostly plastic. Back when Abu Garcia was like the rod and reel to have. I saved up in a summer job and bought that. So do you remember what your first rod was?
The first one I bought myself, most of my rods until I got into bass fishing while I was in the military were hand-me-downs from my dad, old fiberglass rods with Johnson spin casters on them, old Centuries. But first one I bought, I think, was a Bass Pro Shops pistol grip, which I promptly snapped on a hook set. So I was an average Garcia man for a long time. And then I started getting into the rod building, and I'm not knocking Abu, don't get me wrong, but just like every other company does production rods, they come up short in a lot of areas as far as I'm concerned. They're still a great company, don't get me wrong, but they kind of come up short along with everybody else. I mean, I'm not picking on Abu here. It's everybody building production rods. But yeah, that first rod was a Bass Pro Shops 5'6" pistol grip. And I set the hook on a mudfish on the Altamaha River and snapped it in half, which I took back and they replaced. But
Mike Carlson says a Zipco 202. I had like the Zipco, the old style spinning closed face reels. We had those growing up. But my grandfather, his whole life and all my life, used a Zipco 33 and would just fish me under the table. That's all he would use.
Those 33s, those old 33s were indestructible.
Yep.
Now the modern 33s, I wouldn't spend $5 on.
I haven't had one of the modern ones. I don't use that style anymore anyway.
No.
So you don't get the distance or the accuracy out of them.
I learned how to use a bait caster, and I've never gone back to anything else.
Yeah, like I said, I'm still trying to master the bait caster. I know how to use it. I can cast it and reel it and crank it and walk the dog and things like that. But of course, everybody tells me though, like no matter how long you've been using one, backlashes are going to happen.
They will. The wind will come up. You'll do something silly. You won't get your thumb down. I do it all the time. That's why I carry so many rods.
All right. Crazy Catfishing asks, what is your favorite fish to catch? That was actually my next question on the list.
Well, for me, it's bass. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like outsmarting a largemouth or a smallmouth bass and catching them on something that's not alive that they shouldn't eat anyway. You know, there's nothing wrong with sitting on a bank drowning some night crawlers. It's a great way to get kids fishing, especially if you get them in a pile of bluegill. Now, I will tell you, if you're in an area where the bluegill get about this big, unlike here where they don't, you get in down Georgia where they get that big, those are fun. But my favorite's bass. Always will be.
Bluegill are good to eat too. I take my kids. Yeah. We have a pond here where I can catch 10-inch. It's pretty good.
Those are fun. Get you an ultralight and go and just have a ball. Now, the most fun I've had catching bass one time was an Army buddy of mine and I in Georgia had access to a stock pond. And that pond was stocked. It was all basically 2-pound bass. So being the jerks we went out there with some 4-weight fly rods, which was hilarious because, I can't cast a fly rod to save my life.
I never learned. It's on my list of things to try this year.
Yeah, catching 2-pound bass on a 4-weight fly rod is like catching Moby Dick on, dental floss.
That's a good way to put it. All right, Mike Carlson asks, what's the best way to set up a bait caster to minimize backlash?
Oh, I can explain it, but it'd be easier to show you. Hey, the quickest way to do that, once you've got it spooled up with lines, put whatever lure on there you're going to use. Reel the lure up till it's just about that far from the tip. You don't want it all the way to the tip. Then engage the bail, push your button. That lure should slowly fall to the ground. When it hits the ground, the spool should stop. So by using the knob on the side and your magnetics is how you use that to set that fall. If it falls to the ground and stops and your spool stops, then you're set. And if you change baits and they're actually a different weight, even by 1/8 of an ounce, you need to redo that whole process or you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
Now, after you use one for a while and you get used to it, I run my bait casters quite loose for what would be loose for most guys because I'm so used to them. And I use my thumb for a lot of things. My thumb's automatically there. It doesn't mean I don't have problems. I just run them a lot looser. So it's just 30 years of practice.
Yeah. There are a couple of good videos on YouTube too, if you want to check them out. Shows you how
There's several good videos, and some of them are real specific as far as lose or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh man, this chat's going nuts with questions, and I can't keep up.
Yeah, I have Jennifer had the last question.
There's two.
Could co-angle, or had the first of the, if you could co-angle with any pro, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Probably Hank Parker if he's still fishing. He was my favorite. But there's a lot of guys I wouldn't mind being back a boat of. I'm thinking about maybe trying to marshal next year a little bit too if I can afford it. You know, that's a college education in an 8-hour day basically. But yeah, I'd love to fish with old Hank Parker. There's a lot of guys like that, old Hank and uh, Charles Grigsby and Denny Brower. I mean, they've all got their strengths. David Fritz, especially. Everything I know about crankbait fishing, I've learned about trying to pick apart David Fritz every chance I get.
Is there anybody active today, like that'll be fishing next week, you would fish with?
Brian Latimer just won the FLW Tour on Seminole, and I watch his YouTube channel. He seems like he'd be a great guy to hang out with. Terry Bolton's still fishing. I followed Terry for years. It's good to see him starting to really put things together.
Yeah. I've gotten a couple of retweets from Scott Martin. I think the chance just to fish with the Martins, because that would be access to a lot of people. Rolling, Although I'm still a little angry about that helicopter lure.
Yeah, that's the one thing Roland designed. It didn't work out too well.
Didn't work at all. Fishing Family Network asked, many people are under the impression that custom rods are unattainable due to cost. Can you discuss range of cost?
Yeah, but custom rod costs are all over the board. It all depends on the builder. I can only speak to my experience, my personal experience. A custom rod can cost anywhere from $200 to $12,000, depending on what it is and who built it. Mine generally run with tax, labor, shipping, and all about $275 a rod, which is actually fairly cheap in the custom world. I'd be wary of guys that are selling you rods that are $159, $179 and calling them custom. So, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Yours generally run from what?
Mine generally run from about $275. That's tax, labor, shipping, and all. And mostly because I lean on those MHX blanks a lot. They got a reasonable cost for great blanks. So yeah, I come in about $275 most of the time, $275, $280. Which, depending on your budget, may be reasonable, may not be.
Okay, yeah. That's a little out of my budget, but I'm not the only one on here tonight. So
yeah,
that's I think the answer to all those questions, the one you can afford, goes both ways.
Yeah.
If you fish enough to use a custom rod and can afford it, I'm sure they have advantages that your mass manufactured don't. But if you don't, then you can buy a Walmart rod and catch fish. I've done it.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, and I get asked a lot, who's a custom rod for?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the business answer is whoever wants one.
Mm-hmm.
But usually a custom rod is for people who have, like me. My fishing is dialed into the point. I know part of the reason I got into rod building was the big companies weren't offering me what I wanted. So I figured I'd build my own. There's certain types of actions in relation to rod power that I want for certain applications. They're starting to come around a little bit production wise, but yeah, there's a big difference between production rods and custom rods, and it's not just price. But yeah, a custom rod's also for if you want to commemorate something, 30-year retirement from somewhere, or something you've done that is, or even an heirloom passed down to your kids, things like that. But definitely, if your fishing's dialed into that point like me, where you're very specific about rods for this, rods for that, then a custom rod's probably the way you want to go. I mean, and the upside is you can get whatever you want, color wise, etc. It will look like nothing else. So, It comes down to, like I said, budget, and it comes down to what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want something, you'll find a way to afford it.
That's true. We have Black Country Piker. Do you have that one rod or reel you just won't get rid of? I have one rod that is falling apart but still does the job and is perfect for lots of situations. Do you have that one you've just hung on to?
No, I've got some rods that are still hanging around, but I fish when I'm fishing. I fish probably 30 hours a week, even when I worked. I'm retired now, more or less. But yeah, 30 hours a week, I wear rods out. If I don't break them, I warp them, I rip guides off. I mean, it's just abuse, pure, straight up abuse. That's the other reason I went to custom rods. But no, yeah, I haven't really had that one I've just hung on to forever. I probably would have, but they all went out the back of the truck last Thursday.
I don't have that one either. Like I said, I'm the blue collar guy. Whatever I can find on sale or
Amen.
You
I picked up a couple chatterbaits today because they were cheap.
Yeah. If I was a serious enough angler that I was spending 200 plus days a year on the water like a lot of these guys are, then yeah, I would probably head toward the custom rod deal. You want something to, if it's your job or if it's your career or what you're the most serious about, you want the best tool for the job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, if you're a welder, you want the best welder on the market so you can do better with it or whatever. So I think the same applies in this industry too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then, I'll be honest with you, it would be cheaper for me to go buy rods instead of build them myself for me. But again, I won't get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is production rods. There's no set standard in the industry. You go to the Walmart, you go to Dick's or Bass Pro Shops, wherever, and you pick a rod up off the shelf and it feels tip heavy or butt heavy to you. It's going to feel one way or the other because unless you're the average fisherman, most of those reel seats are just slapped on there somewhere between 10 inches and 12 inches. And depending on the measurement from your elbow to your wrist, middle of your elbow to your wrist, is where it determines how I set a reel seat. So a rod that feels good to you, I'm 6'3", it's going to feel off to me because my arm's longer. So that a lot of those rods on the shelf, the reason they bend the way they do, they're made out of they're graphite. They've also got a high fiberglass content. That's why you can take those ugly sticks and bend them in a circle and not break them.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why they feel heavier. I've got a rod sitting over here that was my wife's 6-footer that I was going to replace. But before I lost all my rods, even with a reel on it, most of my 7-foot rods were lighter than that rod without a reel on it.
That's cool. I can see the weight differential being a thing. Lighter is better in this day and age. You're gonna get fatigued throwing a heavy rod all day.
You'll adjust to whatever you're throwing, but I'm getting to that age where, a decade in the Army and my body's tore up, my bones hurt, So, that lighter, more ergonomic build on a custom rod, I'm not fighting a rod, I'm fighting a fish. So, it saves you some fatigue. Because my average fishing day, like say, even when I worked, I'd leave the house Saturday morning, and I wouldn't be home till dinner. So it was 10 hours minimum.
Yeah, when I don't get the chance to go as often as I like, obviously I have a 9 to 5.
Right.
But so the weekend, so it's for me when I do get a chance to and especially with the filming and everything now, when I do get a chance to take a trip, it's a trip. When I'm going fishing, I'm going like, don't plan anything. I won't be back in an hour. I'll see you tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing Mrs. Gumpa asked me is when you're coming home, so she knows whether or not save me a plate or have it on the table when I walk in. So. Yeah. But she knows when I go out, I ain't coming home. I don't answer my phone.
All right, we have Shelby Super Snake. Gumpa, can you explain how to check a rod for the spline being placed correctly?
Yes, I actually have a video on my website that explains that perfectly, and you can see what I'm doing. But basically, how you check the spine of a rod is you take a rod, and this is not a full rod. This is what's left of my flipping stick. 70-mile impact with highway at 70 miles an hour in a semi. But you take that rod and you put it under load. You grab it by the tip, you put the butt on the ground, and you pinch it between your fingers, and you put it under a load like you're fighting a fish. It doesn't matter if you bend it forward or opposite. And then you give it a twist with your fingers, and it'll pop into its natural spine. And that rod over there was my wife's 6-footer, is the one I used in that spining video, and it's the one whose guides are off 90 degrees. You got the spine of the rod, but the guides are on this side, which means when she's fishing that rod, it wants to torque to the right on her. So she's fighting that rod at the same time she's fighting the fish, which puts a lot of wear on your wrist. And you would be surprised at how many high-end production rods are just as bad.
Yeah, probably wouldn't actually, but Fishing Family Network comments, I have 3 identical rods that if you stand them side by side, the leads don't line up on any of them, and the length is slightly different on all of them.
Yeah, that's you see that with blanks, because sometimes a 7-foot is a 7-foot, sometimes a 7-foot is a 7.25 foot. You know, but it's tolerances. The production rods, they're slapping them out as fast as they can. So,
yeah. Mr. Hard Charger says, excellent stream tonight, guys. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thumbs up for the host. Thank you, Jagfish, and appreciate you coming. And yes, please, if you haven't already, please do hit that thumbs up. That does a lot of good for our streams. We have a couple people who have joined us that I didn't see come in. Shout out real quick. Fat Guy Outdoors. Chris is with us now. Hey, Chris. Good to see you, buddy. Me and him will be getting together again pretty soon, I hope. We did a fishing video last year together, or over the summer. Jag Fishing came in. We just said appreciate it. Plydane Scientist UFO Builder. That's a mouthful, but hey, welcome. Lake Creek Bottom Outdoors is with us. Appreciate it. And yes, guys, thumbs ups are always appreciated. If you haven't already, please do hit that thumbs up. Son of a Fisherman. That's a great name. Lake Creek by Hey Blue Collar. Appreciate it. All right. All right, Gumpa. We kind of been hitting on this back and forth a little bit with questions in the chat. And my question is, what are the advantages to a custom rod over like an Abu Garcia or a Shimano or anything that you can buy in the mass manufactured market?
Okay. First advantage is you're going to get the exact length and action you want. You're not going to have to settle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second advantage is a good custom rod builder. Those guides are going to be straight. They're going to be locked down. It's going to be wrapped exactly in the colors you want. And 2, as a rod builder, I'm going to work with you. You know, you want me to build you a crankbait rod, I'm going to find the best blank for that. Now, they're just starting to hit the market. Abu Garcia and Iconelli released a parabolic bend rod for crankbaits. I don't know if you heard about that. I've had access to parabolic rods for a couple years for crankbaits. It's a composite graphite fiberglass blend. It's got the weight of a graphite, but more of the action of a fiberglass rod with that nice natural longer bend to it, which makes it great for treble hook lures. But the advantage over a production rod is comfort. Ask anybody that's bought one of my rods. The reason they feel as good as they do is because it's built specifically for them. It's like having a pair of fitted shoes. You know, if I built you a rod, it's going to fit your arm length from here to there. It's going to feel more comfortable than anything you've ever felt before. And you're also going to get a choice of grips. Now, I'm starting to see wing grips on more market rods, but I have the advantage of I can put them where you want them, or leave them off, or whatever. That's the biggest advantage of a custom rod is you don't have to settle for what they think the average fisherman wants. You can get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're a blue collar guy. You wear work boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good pair of fitted work boots worth their weight in gold.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I don't scrimp on.
Right. Custom rod's basically the same thing. It's a pair of good fitted work boots.
That's a good comparison. I was going to say like tailor fitted clothes instead of off the shelf, but yeah, boots. That's because you spend all day in them, so
Yep.
not
You spend
something.
all day fishing it.
Yep, I get it. Um. Okay, now that kind of leads into my next question. And I don't mean to pull business away from you or anything. Is there a rod and reel combo out there right now that you would say, "Hey, I understand you can't afford mine. Here's a good starter. When you're more into it, come back to me. But here's a good start."
Hard to say. I would probably look at anything Abu Garcia from the Silvermax line or up just a little bit, or Shimano. Shimano's always put out good products.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're in that position where you maybe can't afford a custom, $200 or $300 a custom, but $150 combo is not necessarily out of reach, I would probably start there.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed some of the store brands for especially for starting in around that $100 range, you can get a decent starter combo with your Bass Pro or your Cabela brand.
Yeah, you can. My only problem with a lot of those low end starter rods and reels is it's like starting with a cheap guitar.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily work as well as something that's better made, and it's kind of frustrates people, makes them quit.
Yeah.
But again, your budget dictates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
I agree with that. I play guitar, so that's a good comparison. Or I used to a lot more than I do now. Who's got
Oh,
time?
same here.
um. Also, even as the blue collar guy, I think people should know I'm all about value or affordability or what's a good value, but there is a difference in value or affordability and cheap. Cheap
Right.
will cost you more money in the long run because they break.
Exactly.
You have to replace them. You get frustrated and just throw them away and quit.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason, like, I'm a Lose Reels fan. I like my Lose Reels because I burn up a lot of cheaper reels because I fish so hard.
Mm-hmm.
You put 30 hours a week on a reel, and I don't care what brand it is, you're going to put some wear on it. Well, if it was already plastic parts to start with, it doesn't take me long to really tear one up. So that's kind of pushed me to a little more expensive on the reels. It's like a good set of tools. The screwdriver is a screwdriver is a screwdriver, except when it doesn't get the job done.
Right.
And
you're looking for one.
Yep. Or you've broken it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a small engine mechanic before I retired. So.
Mm.
Let's see. There's a couple of questions in the chat we haven't got to.
All right. Let me scroll back up a little bit.
Somebody asked about round reels.
Okay. I'm not from what round reel, like the bigger bait casters?
The old school round. Remember the old school green Abu Garcia round reels? You'll see them on a lot of catfish rods now too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
What's my thoughts on those? I used to have a couple of those old green Abu Garcia round reels. Loved them to death. They make great flipping reels. But I find the lower profile bait casters anymore are much lighter, much easier to handle. And when you get an arthritis, them big round reels get heavy. So, but I don't have any issue with round reels if you can find one that works as well as those used to. And like I said, you'll see them a lot on catfish rods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fishing with a catfish guy next week, so I might see one then.
Yeah. They're brutes. I mean,
yeah. That's
let's see.
Growing too now, the catfish fishing sport. They got the conference and everything now.
Yeah, I don't intentionally catfish. I've caught a couple on a Texas lizard and spinner baits, but they're fun. But I don't intentionally catfish. if I'm after catfish or crappie or something like that, I'm hungry and I want something to eat.
Like I said, I'm a multi-species guy because I need some sort of activity. I don't catfish like these guys. Well, one, Pennsylvania has some pretty strict laws about the way you fish, so I can't have more than
Yep.
2 rods out. And catfishing sometimes to me resembles waiting on a bus too
It
much.
is.
You know?
Well, that's part of the reason I got into bass fishing is because I like the constant motion. It gives me something to focus on instead of just sitting there going. Plus, for me, it takes the luck out of it because I'm actually proactive in finding those fish and catching them. You know, just about anybody can toss a night crawler under a bobber and toss it out in the water, and you wait long enough, you're going to get a bite.
Mm-hmm.
You know. All right, fishing stripes. What's my favorite crankbait? Whichever one's getting bites at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm a big fan of square bills in the shallow water. Love shallow water fishing and liplets. As far as model, I don't care. Berkeley's got some really nice looking stuff out right now. Square bulls is their shallow square bill crankbaits. You got your Strike Kings. It really don't matter. Bass can't read.
I don't. Well, my bait caster one, like I said, I haven't mastered it yet, so I don't reel that with mono. I don't use mono on much of anything anymore except trout rods. What braid are you using?
I use braid for backing mostly. So whatever cheap braid I can find. Power Pro usually, but I use it for backing. Worm rod and my flipping stick both get fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
My crankbait rods usually get fluorocarbon. I've had some thoughts about going to straight braid on those. I just don't know if I want to deal with it or not. I've never been a big fan of braid. I can see the advantages because fluorocarbon does stretch out eventually, but I do like fluorocarbon for my crankbait rods. Now, for my top waters, is monofilament.
Mm-hmm.
You know, jerk baits get fluorocarbon, but yeah, I usually use braid for backing. Put 20, 30 yards of braid on my reel, and then I don't have to put so much fluorocarbon on there.
Yeah, I normally do this exact opposite. I leave some of the mono that comes on the reel or whatever is backing because they say the braid can make an abrasion in the reel seat.
It can. You got to get it first. You got to get it wrapped just right. It's got to be. You shouldn't be able to get your fingernail down in between them. Because what'll happen is if you can get your fingernail down between that braid, it'll slip and dig into the spool. So there's a couple ways you can eliminate that besides getting it really tight wrap. Is put a piece of electrical tape around a spool, then wrap your braid. So when it digs in, it's digging into the tape. I like the braid better as a backing because it doesn't break down as fast as the mono does. And when it comes down to it, okay, I'm done with this fluorocarbon. I got to take fluorocarbon off. Well, this braid's been on there most of the season. I can peel that off and put it on another reel, put the front part of it on another reel, reel it up. Now I've got a fresh bunch of braid that's never seen the light of day. So you can get your money's worth out of doing that. It's just YouTube's got a few things about braid for backing and some good ways to actually do that to keep them from digging into your spool. And that's the other thing. These more modern bait casters now are more designed to handle braid. So,
Yeah,
but
I can see that. My bait casters are a couple of years older now.
yeah,
Um, I well, especially a spinning rod. To me, straight fluoro on a spinning rod is a nightmare.
it is.
I try to make my life a little easier there, so I use a fluoro leader, about 8, 10, 12 feet fluoro leader, tied with an FG knot on the spinning rod to braid. That way, the braid is on the reel seat because fluoro, the memory on it, man. And like I said,
Yep.
I don't get to go fishing every day, so when I do get to go fishing, I'd like to spend more of my time fishing than picking out a backlash.
Yeah, I either go braid or mono on a spinning rod. It's one or the other. Yeah, fluoro on a spinning reel is definitely a nightmare.
Mono on all the trout rods and as light as I can stand it. Nothing over 4 on the trout rods for me here for mono. And smallmouth bass, I still prefer mono for smallmouth for some reason. I don't know why. Just what I'm comfortable with. I've got more experience with smallmouth than I do largemouth because living by Dale Hollow
Right.
growing up. So, we already discussed your favorite type of fish is bass fishing. Do you
Yeah.
ever still do any catch and cooks? Do you ever go out and catch them as to fry up?
Not really. A couple years back, my son had never really had fresh fish. So I sent him out and I went out and we both caught a limit and I showed him how to clean them and et cetera. And we fried them up. And all that fresh grease and fresh fish made for an interesting next day. But yeah, no, nobody here in my family really, but me, really likes fish. He likes it. He just don't want to have to clean them. So, and I did a lot of that as a kid. So I don't necessarily do that unless once in a blue moon.
Yeah. I do it every now and then with my kids. Just something to do. Something went under my foot. All right. Jennifer asked, Gumpa, what is your return policy if someone does not like the way the rod feels when they receive it?
Well, I've never had to address that question. And that's not being arrogant. That's just being honest. However, most of my sales are final usually. But if I build you a rod and you actually don't like the way it feels or the way it handles, let me know. We'll square it away. I'll work with you. But that's the thing about doing custom work is there's a reason I ask you what that measurement is. There's a reason I ask you what you like to fish for or what you like in a rod or what you'd like to have in a rod, because what I'm trying to do is build you that pair of perfectly fitted work boots.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I haven't run into that yet. But as soon as I do, Jennifer, I'm calling you and complaining.
Yeah, you will now.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen.
That guy outdoors states catfishing is a good excuse to drink all night. I think I've kind of outgrown those days.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. But one of the tournaments I fished in the Altamaha, come around the bend with my partner. He was driving the boat. As we come around, we see a boat wreck. There was a couple sitting across the channel fishing. Some jerk in a speedboat come flying around that blind corner at about 70 miles an hour and hit him. Man was in front, wife was in the rear. He got injured. Half her face was missing because she took the prop from the engine. And I got to help clean that up. And I've seen a couple other bad accidents where alcohol and water were involved. So, yeah, if that's what you like to do, that's great on you, but not me.
Yeah.
If you're near water in a boat, I don't care. Alcohol is the worst thing you can have. So, but I don't knock anybody for that,
If you're on the bank, especially, I think if you're behind the wheel of any vehicle, alcohol is the worst thing to have.
Well, boats are dangerous, period.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need alcohol to have a boating accident. But most of the ones I've seen, alcohol or something else was involved. Usually alcohol and stupidity. But no, that's just not my thing. Like I said, I'm not knocking you for that. You want to sit on the lake, drink a couple beers, have at it,
If I guess this for the record, I don't drink. And I actually knew that about Chris. He told me last time we went fishing he didn't drink. I guess he was making that assumption to the catfishers of the world.
Well, I used to drink quite heavily. It was an Army thing. Now I'll have a beer or two with dinner maybe, or one here occasionally when it gets good and warm, and a cold beer just won't do it. But yeah, I don't drink very much either.
If I'm sitting at home or something, I'll have one with a
fried
something or a barbecue out in the backyard. Never was really my thing.
Yeah. Well, some of the places I was in the Army, that's all there was to do.
Yeah, I was on the railroad for a couple of years, and when you're on the road, there's not a lot else to do in the evening. But all right. Well, back to my list of questions here. Are there any species that you haven't caught yet that you would like that you have on your bucket list?
Definitely smallmouth. I've only caught one smallmouth in my life, and that was at Kentucky Lake several years back, and that was just a surprise. But yeah, I'd like to go target some smallmouth. I've really gotten interested in fishing for snook. They're like saltwater bass. And then maybe some peacock bass. That'd be fun too.
I heard in the bass family that peacock put up the hardest fight. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to catch one and compare it to stripers because a striper will rip your arm off.
Yeah. Well, also, peacock come from the Amazon, so anything
Right.
that's fighting current is going to put up a better fight. I
Yeah.
can tell you that. You said you caught one smallmouth. I've been fortunate enough to live by two of the greatest smallmouth fisheries in North America, possibly the world. And I would say one of them, definitely the world, because it holds the world record and the second largest smallmouth ever caught in the Delaware Reservoir. But here in Pennsylvania, where I live now, we have the Susquehanna River,
Uh-huh.
and it's considered the best smallmouth bass river anyway in the world. And you can get an average fish. You can catch several 17, 18 inchers, and a 20-inch fish will put you in the good fish pound range, 3.5, 4 pound smallmouth and on up. But I heard a guy who's considered a smallmouth expert, outdoor unlimited guy, Kim Penrod, and he does a lot of guides on the Susquehanna here. He basically said if you tied, because smallmouth are used to fighting current, and it takes them almost triple the time to mature. It'll take a smallmouth bass 6 years to reach 12 inches when a largemouth can do it in a year.
Yeah.
But if
Especially
you
Florida strain.
Yep. But if you tied a 3 pound smallmouth to the tail of a 3 pound largemouth, it wouldn't even be close. That smallmouth drag him all over the lake.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact word, but I looked it up once, and the Native American word out here in the Midwest for the smallmouth bass translated out to small fury.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I caught probably wasn't much more than a pound and a half. I doubt she went 2, but boy, did she put up a heck of a fight. I thought I had me a nice largie, and I
Mm-hmm.
got her in. I'm like, oh, you're not that big. It was
I've,
like catching a bluegill on a crankbait, and he's half the size of a crankbait, but he tries to rip the rod out of your hand, you know?
yeah, I say with their shape and their aggressiveness, like you were saying, those bigger bluegill are a lot of fun too. But I tell people all the time, and the guys up here, they make fun of me for catching so many bluegill. But if a bluegill got to be 5 pounds, you never get him ashore.
Well, they do, but we call them largemouth bass.
Yeah. But if a bluegill with that shape and their aggressiveness and the way they swim and shape, if they got to be the same size as a bass, nobody'd ever land one.
No.
And the smallmouth bass is, even the smaller ones, they think they've got broad shoulders. I've caught 12, 13, 14-inch smallmouth bass and been like,
Mm-hmm.
they
Yep.
do acrobats in the water and they try to shake that hook. They just don't want nothing to do with it.
Yep. So, yeah.
I would say pound for pound, the smallmouth is the best fighting fish in North America.
Probably. I haven't caught enough to have it, say for sure, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. At least of the ones that I have access to. It's hard to tell with all the invasive species that you can catch in Florida now. All right, we have you said smallmouth bass. Do you have any places that are on your bucket list, areas you want to fish?
Oh, well, I got to go back to Kentucky Lake. I want to fish Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to hit. I got to hit Texas. I want one of them big bass. But yeah, I've got a list a mile long. Dale Hollow's on there, Chickamauga, Guntersville. If the Elite Series or FLW fished it, that's where I want to go. Seminole.
I fished Chickamauga, and I fished where the Classic's going to be next week too, Fort Loudon on the Tennessee River. I haven't fished Seminole yet. So. What about Okeechobee?
Yeah, that's on my list. I just assumed when I said Florida, everybody knew Okeechobee was part of it.
Yeah. Like muskie. If I got outdoor says muskie out here fight like heck, I wouldn't know. I've caught one, and there wasn't anything to write home about. So fish.
I've never caught a muskie.
You've never caught a muskie?
Caught plenty of pike. Never caught a muskie. Of course, I don't fish for them.
Yeah, the same. I caught plenty of pike when I lived in the Minnesota area, but muskie just always evaded me.
Yeah. Well, that and I have this thing about catching fish with teeth. I've got a scar on my left thigh from a Red Devil spoon treble hook thanks to a pike.
I've taken a couple of them in fingers.
Yeah. I was wearing shorts fishing off a dock, and he did one of those head shakes and got himself loose, and the damn treble hooks ended up sticking in my leg.
Fat Guy Outdoors wants to know the price range if it hasn't already been asked. It has and asked and discussed, but I'm sure Gumpa would answer it again.
Right. Well, on my rods, hey Eddie, but on my rods, my price starts at about $275. That's tax, labor, shipping, and all. And it goes up from there. It all depends on the blank, the components, the grips, etc., and how much work I've got to put into the thread work. We keep it simple. I can keep it around 300 or less.
Fishing Family Network asks, when is the last time you fished saltwater? Do you make saltwater rods?
I do. I have not made a saltwater rod. I've been asked to do a couple. I kind of hem and haw with that because I don't fish saltwater. Again, there's that thing about fish with teeth and things that grow big enough to swallow me. I'm a Midwestern boy. I spent 3 days on the Indian Ocean leaving Somalia. That's about the most time I've seen on saltwater. We weren't fishing. We were just relaxing. So, yeah, but yeah, I'll take a crack at a saltwater rod. It can't be much different than building a good striper rod. So, actually, saltwater rod's probably a little easier because I don't have to necessarily worry about the sensitivity.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, most jack poles for tuna is just a billy club with some line on it.
A lot of those catfishing guys that are real serious about it now have gone to using
the light saltwater blanks,
surf rods, 10, 12-foot rods, so they can really get out there.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. All right. All right, Gumpa, you have any questions or anything you want to discuss?
I don't know. I think I'm about talked out. Unless we had any other questions we didn't get to right quick.
Okay. All right. We do have a giveaway from Mars Tees Lures for a custom crankbait, and I'm going to pick a winner tonight. I have a question here that I've got. Since we have a tournament angler guy who's kind of like me in the chat tonight, when it comes to these tournaments, I can get a little dorky like fantasy football with the fishermen. And I will give you a couple of hints. Now, for the Martese Lures custom crankbait, what you will do is I'll put my email in the chat when we find a winner. And you can email me your shipping information. And I will send that over to Marty. And Marty is going to ship that custom crankbait he made for tonight directly to the winner. So my question is this. On Twitter earlier this week, I posted my predictive winner this year for the Bassmaster Classic. The question is who did I post? And the hints are, it's not Kevin Van Dam or Mike Iaconelli, as much as I like those guys. The angler is from Knoxville, Tennessee, and his initials are OD. We already have a winner. Chris was paying attention, buddy.
Yep.
We already have a winner. Fat Guy Outdoors, Chris Summerall, you are the winner of the Martese custom crankbait from Mars Tees Lures. Actually, no, you're not. You haven't got it right yet. You've got an extra letter in there. He says pick someone else. All right. He's pretty close, guys. He's pretty close. So if somebody else can type it in the chat. He has decided to defer it. Talk to text killed me.
That's because you can't talk. Bass Tamer TV got it.
Yep, Bass Tamer TV got it. Art Defoe is my predictive winner this year. Excuse me, Art. Art Defoe is my predictive winner this year. I had Art Belden on my mind there for a second. The reason I went with Art Defoe is I think there's a lot to be said about a local boy. Art grew up fishing Fort Loudon. He's from Knoxville, Tennessee. And if you haven't been paying attention, if you don't have family in the area and you don't know, the Tennessee River has been pumping millions of gallons of water out this week because the entire southeast has been flooded for the past week. All the rivers are crested. The water is high and muddy, and I think the hometown advantage is going to help Ott this week. What about you, Gumpa? Do you have a predictive winner for next week's classic?
No, because I've watched enough classics to know that Ott's got a good chance because he's a local boy. He knows the lake, but I've also seen that bite guys. It'll be the knucklehead that doesn't know nothing, just kind of goes fishing and figures it out. We'll see. I quit trying to predict stuff like that because I'm always wrong. Hey, you want to do another giveaway? I got a line cutter, a zipper pole. I'll be willing to give away to somebody. This is the new one with the ceramic blade.
All right, let me get my email in there for Dean. Although, Dean, just Twitter message me. You know me. You can even text me. Dean's got my cell number. That's what we'll do. So, Dean, just reach out to me, and I'll send that information over to Marty to get that custom crankbait to you.
Hey, Shelby.
Chris defaulted on it.
You said sunscreen. There you go, Hoss. I'm not trying to get any more scars. I got plenty.
Now that is something that I think you would tell guys today to pay attention to. You and Dave Cook especially is you got
lucky.
Your skin. Yeah.
They caught it before it got worse. I mean, I don't know how well y'all can see those. They did a pretty good job on me. I may end up with a couple more. I got a couple more spots we're not overly concerned about, but we're not happy with either. So I'll find that out later this summer. So yeah, but we can come up with a good question. I've got a line cutter zipper pole with a ceramic blade, the new ones, to give away to some lucky winner.
I don't know. What question you want to come up with there, Eric?
Oh, I don't know.
I got one. Let's see who was paying. Okay. We'll go with the first name you mentioned of a tournament angler you would fish for. You said if he's still around fishing. And what was the first name Gumpa mentioned? Bit of a legend, not one of the three legends, but he is a legend, definitely in tournament angling, that he would like to fish, he would like to co-angle with. The first person to get that in the chat tonight can win his line cutter zipper attachment. Jesus.
Dean's on it tonight. Man, and Mike Carlson, yes, the answer is always 42. For those of you who've read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't forget your towel.
I love that book. I've read it. 42. It's always 42.
And Dean's on it. Dean can send me his address.
This is like the FFN guys. There's always one guy who gets all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dean got it again with Hank Parker. Dean, you know Gumpa on Twitter, I'm sure, so you can reach out to him and he'll send that to you. Are there any more questions that we might have missed in the chat here tonight, Aaron?
I haven't seen any. Is there any other questions we didn't get to that we didn't answer? Anybody got any more?
If you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. I'm late to the party, but I'm here. Hey, Kevin, welcome, buddy. I should actually.
Kevin, your time to go.
I should actually. Kevin and Dean next week. They're both going to the Classic as well. Jennifer, I got Parker first. Did you?
I saw Dean come up first, but he said send it to Snake. Oh.
Let me see.
It was close. He posted just ahead, like second ahead of her.
Yeah, yes.
But he said, "Go ahead and pass it on." So
okay, I have to
I'll
go
give
by
it
my.
to Jim.
But sometimes that might happen. Just to explain to y'all, I have to go by my chat. If there's a lag, there might be a lag between your chat and mine, so it might show in your chat that you went ahead. But I have to go by my chat. That's the one I can see. I do apologize if there was a lag and that cost you something. But that's the only way I can do it fairly is go by my chat. Gumpa, what lure would you fish with if you were at Lake Okeechobee this week?
Well, there's plenty of grass in Okeechobee, so I'd have to pick up my jig. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably be out there punching reeds or something with a jig. I like dirty water.
There was something. What is your opinion on cork handles and foam or other materials? Do you have a preference?
Cork handles, I love the look of cork. I hate the weight of it. Cork's heavy. I don't care what you do to it, cork, even if it's composite cork, it's heavy. And it's not as durable as a lot of other stuff. Now, EVAs aren't too bad, and I've really gone to wing grips. Wing grips, you got the golf grip basically over the top of EVA foam. They're the lighter, they last a little better. I don't think they're ever going to come up with a fishing grip that's actually going to be perfect all the way around. But if I'm looking at weight savings, I'll go with EVA or Winds before I even think about cork. I rarely put cork on a rod unless somebody asks for it.
Cork can cork also get waterlogged? It can absorb moisture.
Yeah, most people don't get them some U40 cork sealer. They don't seal them every year, so they get really, they dry out, they crack, they get filled with dirt. So yeah, cork's not my favorite. As far as looks, I love cork handles for that classic look. But yeah, personally for fishing, no.
Yeah, I have one rod that's got the cork handle. Looks great, but I don't throw it as much as the others.
Yeah.
Somebody jig or swim bait?
I'm not much of a swim bait guy. I've got a few I'm going to start using this year. I got on the jigs, and when I finally started figuring out how to get bites on them, I'll tell you what, there's not a better lure in your tackle box for just about any time of the year. You know, I'll take a jig most days.
Yeah. I'm a lot more accustomed to jig fishing, I think, just bouncing it off the bottom. I started fishing paddle tails more last year.
Yeah, I've got some paddle tails and some other swim bait, small swim baits to deal with this year.
Yeah.
And Little Rancher, to answer your question, usually a 6'6" has 9 to 10 guides, and a 7-foot has 10 guides minimum. And that's about as far as I'll push it as number of guides. Any more than that's just adding weight.
Yeah. That's the question I had in my head, so now my brain's trying to catch up with you. I just saw it. I agree, if I got outdoors. I don't think it makes a lot of difference, but I do like the feel of cork. I mean, it's personal preference, right? I mean,
yeah, it is. And I've had a couple of customers that wanted cork on their rods. I don't have a problem putting it on somebody's rod. Personally, I don't like cork for what I do. You got to realize when I fish, and I'm talking about a 10-hour day, that rod's doing this all day long. And wet cork will wear a blister on you. You know, I haven't fished tournaments in a little over a decade and a half, but I still fish like I fish tournaments. So we're talking several hundred casts an hour, constant. So yeah, cork looks great, but for me personally, I'll take EVA or wind grips before I'll go near a cork rod.
all right. We have some chatter going on about the giveaway and who can take it and all that. But I just picked the winner, the guy who got the answer right first. Um, if Dean doesn't want it, Dean, you can, it's yours now. You want it. You can have it sent to whoever you choose. I think that's the best way to handle that. I'm not UPS, guys. I can't just keep taking shipping information for 10 different people. So once you win, I think that's a new rule in here. Once you win something, if you don't want it, you can settle it. Say, hey, you were the second guy, you were the third guy, or whatever. I won this, but I've already got one, or I don't need it. Then you can, it's like anything else. Once it's yours, it's yours. You can do what you want with it. That sound fair, Gumpa?
Sounds fair to me.
Dean says, I really don't want it, won't use it, want to give it to you guys. Then, Dean, you pick who you want to give it to, who wants it, and go from there. And you can reach out to Gumpa if you don't even want it mailed to you and say, hey, send it to this person. All right? Sound good?
Yep. Hey, Shelby, those wind grips actually hold up. When they get wet, they're a little tacky, so they're easier to hold on to. And you can sweat them all you want. And the good thing about them, you can wipe them off with an alcohol wipe. You can clean them right up. You wipe cork off with alcohol, and sooner or later you're going to dry it out and crack it. So, but yeah, the wind grips hold up. They're made by the same people that make the wind golf club grips. So, yeah, they hold up pretty well. And in fact, a lot of pros are going to them.
Fishing Stripes, I have to put the crew to bed. Awesome show, guys. Catch y'all there. Good night. Fishing
Night
Stripes.
Stripes, thanks.
Have a great night. Fishing Family Network. All right. If there are any more questions in the chat, go ahead and ask your questions now. We'll start to wrap up. We'll be live about 15 more minutes. Is that good with you?
Yep.
Gumpa? We'll stay live about 15 more minutes. Ask more questions. What? I had a question for you, Gumpa.
Okay.
Where are you fishing, and what are you fishing out of right now? Where are you located?
I'm fishing in Central Illinois. That's where I'm at, Champaign, Illinois, University of Illinois, for those of you who aren't good at geography. Right now, I had a little twin troller. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of those. It's got twin troller motors on it. It's a little bigger. It's a lot bigger than a kayak. It's about 10-foot boat. And I wore it out. It's been sitting for 3 years. And so I'm back on the bank. I'm hoping this year to acquire a bass boat. Nothing super expensive, just a low end, middle of the road tractor, something to get me on the water anyway. I can't sit a yak. My back and my knees won't let me do it anymore. And I'm at that point in my fishing that it's bad enough fighting the wind with a trolling motor. I don't want to have to fight a paddle too. So I want to fish, not row. That, and there's a lot of big water. I don't get it. My twin trawler was great for small lakes, little ponds, things like that. 52-acre lakes where you didn't get a lot of wind. Did okay on a gravel pit, but I want to fish some bigger lakes. If I'm thinking about getting back in tournaments, I want to take this year because I know what lakes they fish for the tournaments I'm thinking about doing. So I want to take the rest of this year and fish those lakes, so I'm not walking in blind next spring.
There's another YouTuber that's out of your area, Tackle Junkie 81.
Okay. There's a few channels out of here. They fish Clinton and this and that. Clinton's real close to me. It's about 40 minutes away. In fact, we'll be there in July. We're taking the grandkids camping. So I'm hoping to have the boat. They'll have fun with that. They like to go fast.
Stanley Orchard, only 15 minutes remaining to click the thumbs up, and it's getting shut down. Click it while you can. Yes, please. I greatly appreciate that. Emergency vehicles, trains, aircraft, etc. I'm going fishing tomorrow. I'm getting jealous. I'm going to work.
Yeah, I got 2 days. I've got 2 days next week. They're supposed to be 60s, and guess who doesn't have a rod? Oh well, I'll get my time.
Coming from you. Yeah.
Well, sometimes the universe has a sense of humor because what happened was I was looking at those rods I made for myself. And I said, if I did those again, there's a couple things I'd do different. So apparently the universe heard me. And
Oh, I had a question that had escaped me down my pad that I wrote in a different area. But the second part to Greg Warner's question, his second question is, how do you determine reel set and guide placement?
Actually, I think those two questions were from Donovan David. But anyhow, the reel seat we've already talked about. I've determined that placement based on the measurement from your middle of your elbow to your wrist on the inside of your forearm or your casting arm. That tells me about where to put it. And then again, it goes into balance. Do I need to move it forward or backward to make it a little butt heavy, a little tip heavy, depending on what technique you're doing? Or is it going to be as close to neutral balance as I can get it? And then guide placement. I have, for the MHX blanks, I have some standard placements that I've figured out that I use. But a lot of times I'll put guides on. I've got a reel here. I'll go ahead and they're not wrapped on. I just got them, tied on so they'll stay. I'll put it under a load and see how that line's working with the blank, if it's touching anywhere, if I can move a guide forward or backward and get it to go better. So a lot of times it's just a matter of playing with things. It's always good to have a starting point, but that's not necessarily perfect for every blank.
Do you
So,
do you test all your rods before you send them out? Do you put a reel on it?
Oh, yeah.
How they cast, how they guide?
Yep.
Go through?
Yep, I sure do. Matter of fact, Mike Carlson's flipping stick I made for him, I was standing out back on my deck, flipping out into my driveway with it to make sure it was going to do exactly what I wanted it to.
Into a 5-gallon bucket? That's how I learned.
No, I was just flipping in the dark. Actually, I was flipping at my boat, trying to see if I could drop it between the boat and the trailer. So I'm out of practice.
Emergency vehicles, trains, aircraft, etc. I'm fishing. Fishing at the Chickamauga Lake. Cool. I'm familiar with Chickamauga. Growing up in Tennessee, I'm familiar with a lot of those. Kevin, do you live in Tennessee? Chester Frost. Oh, that's for Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Cantrell. Kevin got one of my rods.
Did he? Cool.
Kevin, well, his boy Will. I sent. I don't know if you guys remember back in November. Will had been saving his money for a rod, and not necessarily for me, but he'd been saving up for a custom rod, and then he ended up donating all that money to the Ike Foundation so less fortunate children could go fishing. Well, I found out about it, and I'm not a horrible man. I made sure Will got a rod.
Oh, yes.
So, and from what I understand from Kevin, he does everything to sleep with it, which is always good in my business.
Yeah. I think it's good to get kids outside now more. Anything gets them outside. I read an article once that prisoners now spend more time outside than kids today.
Yeah, well, everybody blames electronics, but it's on the parents.
Man, that's it.
My kids grew up with playing computer games, so I like the game myself. But everything in moderation. The parents have got to lead the charge. Our rule was always there's no phones at the dinner table. My kids are all adults now, and they know there's no phones at the dinner table. We go camping, we're camping. It's family time.
That's a good rule.
But it's on the parents. Because let's be honest,
grades pick up.
If we'd had access to a lot of this stuff when we were kids and could have afforded it, we'd have been just as bad as they are, if not worse.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I'd never made it out of like 6th grade if I'd had the internet. I made it. Lizard, hey, welcome, buddy. First time you made one of these.
Yeah.
We got a few minutes left.
Well, everybody gripes about the internet, but think about what we just did in this hour here.
Oh yeah. I say all the time in the same sentence, it is the best and worst thing ever invented.
Well, it's just like anything, any tool, any weapon. it can be used for whatever purpose you want to use it for. It's only as good or bad as the person in using it, you know.
Yep.
What's up, Lizard King?
Sorry, working. Hey, man, your real life comes first. I say that all the time, too. You
I'm
the
telling
man.
y'all,
Stamped up.
I got forced to retire in August, and trust me, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. It sounds good, but boy, am I bored some days. I can't say that too loud because Mrs. Gumpa will hear me, and my honeydew list will go like that.
I got plenty for you to do. Kevin, can't say enough for what Gumpa did for Will, and the rod is amazing. That's great.
I'm glad you like it. Like I said, every now and then I try to do something like that. Like I told Kevin when we talked about it, you know, Will's still a boy, and as he gets older, he'll learn it soon enough that no good deed goes unpunished. So, but don't spread it around too much, Kevin, because you're ruining my reputation.
King, seeing a lot of you on Twitter, man. Good to see you. Oh yeah. Lever Guns 5110. Hi everyone. Hello, welcome to the chat. You're new. I haven't seen you before. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you coming by. We are about wrapping things up. About 9 more minutes before we're ending. If anybody has another question that they haven't gotten answered yet, be sure to leave that in the chat, and we'll have Gumpa answer it while he's here.
And you know, if you're on Twitter and you follow me or whatever, you got a question, send it to me in a DM. When I got time, I'll answer you.
Yeah. If you're when we end the stream tonight, I'll be sure to put all of Gumpa's information in the description box down below. I usually try to do that when I go live, but tonight I think the time change caught both of us a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been struggling all day.
Last minute in here, so I just put a couple of quick tags and the title up, and all right, let's go. So, but when we end tonight, I'll put everything into the description box. I'll put all the Twitter links and the YouTube link for Gumpa in the description box below if you want to go over and check him out. Throw him a sub if you like the content that's over there. Follow him on Twitter. He is full of information. Me and Gumpa have talked on Twitter quite a bit in the past, argued, debated. We disagree on some of the new tournaments, but that's the beauty here. We agree to disagree. Everybody's civil in here.
Yep.
Keep it that way.
Well, if we all agreed, it wouldn't be any fun.
How boring would the world be? Stand Orchard Gumpa. Been seeing a lot of you on Twitter as well. I'll be checking you out, sir. I'm sure you appreciate it. See you soon, Kelly. Yeah, Dean. Hopefully, I'll see you Saturday, I believe. Saturday's when Kevin's going to be there as well, so I'll try to go to the expo Saturday. I'm leaving here Thursday, and since I'm driving down, I'm staying somewhere around Virginia Tech for the first night. I could do those 12, 13, 14-hour rides in my 20s. Now that I'm 40, it don't feel so good.
Well, give it another 10 years. I wish. I can still drive cross country in my 40s. I can't do it now.
Well, when you do that, I mean, I probably still could, but when you do that, I notice you get less time than you do if you break it up and take a break or whatever, because I'm so exhausted by the drive that the next day I don't have any energy to do anything.
Yeah. Well, I got to that age where I figure if where I'm going isn't there when I get there, I didn't need to go there in the first place.
Last thing where we will be there Saturday afternoon. Good. That's when I'm going into Saturday afternoon. I'll hit the expo, do a little networking. I'll be fishing with Panfish Bill. Some of y'all know him on Twitter. You know him on YouTube. He's more of a cat fisherman. I'm not, but you know it's his house, so I'm a guest. We'll probably be doing some. I think he said something about blue cat fishing. So if I can get on a good one, you know, catching a good catfish is fun. but it's good to collab. It's good to meet other content creators, other people in the industry. So, anything you want to cover before we wrap up tonight, Gumpa?
Next day or two, I'll have a YouTube video out, probably on plastics. That should be the next step in my baits I've been talking about. Other than that,
do you have a preferred brand of plastics?
I was a Zoom man for a long time, but this year I got me some Mr. Twister and some Yum stuff too. So anymore, they're all pretty much the same. Now, if you're just starting out and you want to, something to rely on, Zoom's been around a long time. They make a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm really liking the stuff I'm seeing from Mr. Twister and like for hard baits, Berkeley, and they're coming in at reasonable prices. That's the thing. So I'll have some more information after I fish them a little bit.
Yeah. I'm using a lot of Berkeley stuff right now. I'm a big fan of the Gulp series.
Yeah. I'm really a big fan of their hard bait series. In fact, I got a bunch of Berkeley jukes and their one jerk bait, the skinny cutters. So
a few packs of the Mr. Twister flukes downstairs that I haven't even opened yet.
Yeah, I got some of those Trial Lives, the 2-color worms. I got a pack laying right here somewhere. All right, nope, I must have put them away. I've been reorganizing tackle for the last 6 weeks. I had to buy a bigger tackle box. I've got a suitcase size the tackle box now. I'm going to need a boat just to take it to the lake.
And I'm still kind of boring. I still carry Cincos.
I've got stick baits. I try to cover all my bases. You never know what you're going to need or when you're going to need it. And then, of course, I just got my package in from Marty yesterday. I had my jersey on it. And the wife's jersey and a bunch of more crankbaits and topwaters. So,
yeah. Lizard, I got to catch up on my Gumpa YouTube. That'll be in the description when I get done tonight, and I can fill everything out. Hey, Gumpa, just went to the Museum of Natural History. I saw a photo of you next to the dinosaurs.
Actually, it wasn't me. It was my grandfather. We look a lot alike.
Awesome channel, and yes, very informative. Thank you very much. You're probably talking about Gumpa. Oh, right. How about a Ned rigging video? Were you using Ned rigs?
I have not used a Ned rig yet, so that'll probably be down the road here a couple months. I don't like to talk about things I don't really know about most of the time, if I can help it.
I have used a Ned rig a couple of times. I bought them last year, and I mean, thus far they worked. I've caught fish on them, but you know what they remind me a lot of? You think about it? And it's kind of fallen out of fashion, but really it's what a Ned rig is. Remember when tubes were the hot thing?
Yeah.
For a while, a tube on a jig?
Yeah, it's like a tube. Jig, yeah. It's like a tube bait to a point, or maybe a grub without a tail. That's something a lot of guys don't fish much anymore is grubs either.
No, they still work though.
Oh yeah. One of the things I'll cover in the plastics video is most people have forgotten that a curl tail worm or like a vibe tail worm from Zoom or whatever, great search bait, cover a lot of water and looks a lot different than a spinner bait or a crankbait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got my jersey and ploppers today. I'll post pics on Twitter soon. Cool thing. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah. As far as, when I do videos, I will do that, Frank. I'll get a Ned rig video, but I got to work with it first so I can figure out what the pros and cons of it are. One thing I really dislike about the YouTube and fishing community in general online is a lot of the reviews are the equivalent of an 8-year-old whose new shoes make him run faster. So just like lures, I like my lures reels, but these tournament MBs they're kind of new to me, so you won't see a review on them for a couple months till I got some time to see if I can break one.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot out there. It's a double-edged sword.
It is. I saw a kid one.
There's a lot of positive.
There was a kid that did a YouTube video. He bought one of those expensive Abu reels, went out and fished with it for 2 hours, and the rest of his video was how great this reel was. I'm like, you've got 2 hours on that reel. You don't know nothing about it. Put 32 hours on it, then talk. You know?
And there's probably an old timer out there with a Zebco 33 who could fish you under the boat. You know?
Well, that's the other thing. Most people don't take care of them. They don't know how to clean them.
Well,
So you give me a cane pole, I can probably beat you. All I got to do is be able to reach.
I don't have that much faith in myself, so I won't say that about me. I'm just a guy who likes to fish.
Yeah.
All right. 2 years, 20 years. Pickerel, love them ribbon tails. Yeah, you catch a lot of pickerel up here. You all got chain pickerel in your water?
Yep.
There's like two
They
lakes.
look like pike, but they're not.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
There are like 2 lakes around me. They're almost a nuisance.
Yeah. But yeah, we do have some pickerel up here. Clinton allegedly has some muskie in it. I've heard of them being caught, never seen one. So it can be, Chris.
Beat with a cane pole is this Singapore. My sink stripping's driving me nuts. I'll have to fix that as soon as the stream's over.
Yeah.
All right. That's about an hour and a half. That's about going to wrap it up tonight, guys.
Yeah, because I'm out of coffee.
All right. If you haven't already, be sure and click that subscribe button. If you want to check out Gumpa's Honey Hole and all his channels, our guest tonight, Aaron, I'll leave all that information in the description box below. That'll be up later on our channel that you can go over and check him out. If you're not already, you follow him on Twitter. Give him a subscription to his YouTube channel. You found out tonight. I've seen Gumpa on one other stream like mine before I started doing them, but the guy is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any more questions you might think of if you want to go over to his channel. Stanley Orchard says, enjoyed it, boys. Appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate it too. I'll go ahead and announce next week. Excuse me. If you've been following the chat tonight, you know next week I will be attending the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee at Fort Loudon. I will not be going live this Sunday night. I may or may not do a live from the Classic or from the hotel room. It really depends on the broadband strength in the hotel. Internet is not very good in the area of Tennessee I grew up in. But it's still very rural. So if I'm in that area, then I'm not going to have the internet strength to do it. Kelly, thanks, Gumpa. You guys are welcome. Thank you. Thank everybody for coming.
Thank you. Y'all welcome.
Like I said, if you're new to our channel, or if you haven't already, if you returned to our channel and you haven't clicked subscribe, we appreciate it if you do that. If you could do me a tiny favor before you leave tonight, if you didn't when you came in, if you could press that thumbs up, that really helps out our channel. It appears that we have 30 thumbs up tonight. I believe that is the most I've gotten so far, and 1 thumbs down because there's always that one guy. But you're welcome to. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. If you want to know when our videos launch, you can click that notification bell to stay updated when we go live or when we upload any videos. As warm weather approaches, I was asked this week actually if I was going to end these live streams when the summer got here. That is not the case. I haven't said that. I don't know if somebody said that for me. I do intend on keeping the Sunday night live streams. They seem to be well appreciated. A lot of people come in. I do hope to start uploading during the week again when the warmer weather gets here because I'm a fishing channel. I'd like to go fishing.
Amen.
Kitchen table, you know. So hopefully we'll have some fishing content coming soon. We will be uploading our road trip to the Classic. There is a collaboration coming thus far with Panfish Bill while we're down there, and I might see if I can get another fishing trip in with some high school friends. It's just I'm there for one weekend and it's pretty packed, and with my family being from there, I can't go there and not go visit Mama. That wouldn't go over well. Be sure to check out the links to all the channels. And tonight, if anyone in the chat has a channel and you want to check them out, I hope you felt free to tonight. Just please be courteous and respectful about that. We all get along in here. And tomorrow night, if you're looking for something to do, if you want more fishing talk to help you scratch that itch, our friends at Fishing Family Network will be hosting Kevin Cantrell. That'll be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Kevin's in here tonight. You can go see what he has to say. Good guys over there as well. They promote me. I promote them. We kind of have a 1-2 punch here Sunday and Monday nights. Do I have any more notes? If you want anything tonight, please be sure to reach out to me. All the winners tonight have my information on Twitter. You can DM me over there, and I'll be sure. I believe they also Marty also has your information for the crankbait. And Gumpa, you know Gumpa as well. If you want to give that to somebody else, you can settle that between yourself and whoever you might want to give it to. And just reach out to Gumpa, and I'm sure he'll send it wherever you want it. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. Gumpa, do you want to say goodnight?
Yeah, good night, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for having me, Kelly. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. You've been a great guest. I appreciate you coming.
All right, we'll catch you all later.
Good night, Gumpa. Thanks for coming. That will wrap it up for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. If you did, I do hope you did. Press that thumbs up. Go ahead and remind you of that. Horse fishing, keep up the great work. Appreciate it. Pyrex Phantom, bye, Dad. Hey, buddy. Cool. Thanks for coming to the stream. So that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned. Not next week. We won't be going live. Our Sunday Night Live show won't be airing next week while we're at the Classic, like I just said. The week after that, we will be at the we'll be hosting Stanley Orchard the week after that on our Sunday Night Lives. As always, thanks for watching. Tight lines. Good night.